so I had a true out-of-body experience the other day. It was kind of, it was kind of fast. And I think it was Joel that gave it to me. And I was asking him to, I told him I wanted to do more flying. Like flying, kind of like a hawk. Like if you look up there, you could tell, and he has given me fun out-of-body experiences before like that, where I'm just floating, or I floated up to the ceiling. That one video to the warehouse, that was a blast, because and he never did, like, I don't know if Joel gave me that experience, but the being that gave it to me, he wasn't being ornery and making me, feel heavy, not long after I'm like light as a feather. And so that was a blast. I went to the warehouse, but like they haven't really been giving me real fun ones like that in a long time. So I was telling Joe I wanted, but I can't remember. I guess I was telling him a day or two before this experience, like I want to fly, or astral travel, but kind of fly to like a bird, where you're kind of like surfing in the wind, because you can tell the hawks, or like the wings, like they're just coasting. They're not even flapping they can go 10 minutes without flapping their wings, because they're just like coasting in the wind, like surfing in the wind or whatever. They don't have to flap their wings very much if it's real windy up there, and because you could watch them, So anyway, I was trying to tell him to mimic that, and so he gave me something kind of different, a little bit different, but yeah, that one experience was real fun. That one was titled, and I know he gave me that one. That was titled "To Kansas City with the Tornado." Yeah, and between the buildings, I was like flying. But then eventually he started making me feel heavy, and he's done that many times, cause just to be ornery or whatever. But anyway, this morning, I don't think I can talk long because I only have 4 gigabytes. Okay, but anyway, this morning, I just had a funny dream. It was just a dream, but it was very clear. It was fun. But I was basically at a restaurant, and I normally don't talk about my dreams, but I may as well since it's fresh in my head. So I was basically at the Mexican Villa restaurant, but it was really different. It felt different in the scenario. It was nothing like in real life or whatever. And I started smelling some bread, like I guess it was a bakery too. I started smelling like I can't remember if it was banana bread. I can't remember what kind of bread, but it was sweet bread, like what my mom used to make or whatever, like banana bread. I just can't remember if it was banana bread or like like cinnamon bread. I can't remember, but I smelled it, and it smelled so good. And then I took a bite, and I was like, and I did start chewing it and everything, and I tasted it and everything, and I was like, shit, I need to spit it out. And but I knew I had already swallowed some, and then I started spitting it out and everything. Like I keep telling them not to make me eat shit, like eat gluten shit in my scenario, and almost every day they make me eat shit, gluten shit, because they know I can't handle gluten now. Wheat gluten, I can handle corn gluten and shit like that. It's only wheat gluten. And okay, so then I went out into the area where it seemed like I don't know if there's a bunch of money on the floor, and it was like I think there were some vending machines, but I couldn't see them. Like I somehow knew there were some vending machines, and so I knew some of the money probably came from the vending machines, but I knew some of the money came from tips and stuff, because there was some, the dining tables and stuff, and there was like one woman sitting at the table, and I kept seeing all these dimes on the floor, so I kept going around and picking up all these dimes, and then I'd pick up a dime, and then another one would appear, and I kept picking up all these dimes, And then eventually I picked up like almost like $1. It looked like almost like $1, silver dollar, but it was a little smaller. And I picked up one of those. And eventually I had a big old stack of money, like this big. And so anyway, that was kind of part of that was part of the dream. And then the other part was I went and looked at the chef make a burrito enchilada style, and it was like he was cooking it just right there, like just right there next to, it was just very odd, like right next to the entry door, like where you walk in, and the tables were just right here, like it was just an odd place to cook, just right here, right there near all the tables. The kitchen should be kind of like in the back, and he was just like cooking like right there next to the entry door. And I watched him cook this burrito enchilada style, but in the scenario it was like this big instead of like this big in real life. In the scenario it was like this big, and he was like, I don't know, he had like a big the big tortilla wrap, and then on the sides he already had like the beans and stuff and rice or whatever, and then in the middle he it was just odd. He put all the cheese and stuff in the middle, but this burrito enchilada style was like this big. And I was watching him, and it was just weird. But anyway, that was a funny, odd dream that I had, where I was eating shit again, gluten stuff that I'm not supposed to be eating, or like I say, they make me drink like caffeine, and I can't handle caffeine, like coffee or whatever. And okay, this other more of a lucid dream, out of body experience. Like this morning, it was more like I was still out of body, but it was just more of a dream. Okay, this other experience was out of body experience and lucid dream, and this same bit, this same part, they have given me millions of other scenarios with this exact same part in it, or almost exact. And basically, okay, my female veterinarian, she was in the scenario, and she had like a roommate. I don't know if it was like her lover, or I can't remember if it was like her lover or roommate. But anyway, like I was visiting, and she lived in a small little apartment. And we were kind of like up either the second or third floor. We weren't ground level. It was like second or third, maybe third floor. And so I was visiting her little apartment, and I was like looking at her kitchen, her small little kitchen, and I was like looking at the tables and stuff, and I had a bunch of appliances, and I was like, wow, okay, so this is where she cooks her little sandwiches and stuff. Okay, so then, I'm getting to the funny part. Oh yeah, I can't forget the other part. Oh shit. Yeah, there's a bad part in here. I forgot. There's like a bad part. And okay, so then and I was like looking at her roommate. Like I said, I couldn't. Anyway, she may have said it was a roommate, and maybe I thought it was like her gay lover or something. But so anyway, that part I can't remember exactly if she was supposed to be a roommate or the gay lover. Okay, so anyway, we went in the back porch, and it was like all screened in, just a small little square back porch. And like I said, we were either on the second, we were kind of up high, either the second floor or the third floor. And that same part, they've given me millions of other scenarios being on that exact same like back porch of somebody's apartment. Yeah, they repeat things over. I mean, they'll take little bits of other scenarios, and many millions of years later, put that same little part of another scenario in your current scenario. They've done that many times, and like I say, and even when I was in the scenario, I was like, I knew like I had been there before, so to speak. But the other one, was many years ago, and I can't remember who was, that was many years ago, and I was doing videos and stuff back then where they put, that same little porch and everything in this other scenario. But Okay, so here's the funny part. Okay, so then, see, like right now, you know, I went outside and I smelled that fucking, the dumbass. I don't know why you'd be doing your laundry this late at night, but, well, I mean, I would be, but most dumbasses, you know, they're early bird people that be doing shit at, you know, noon or 1 o'clock. They're not night people. But a second ago I went outside and I smelled that shit, that laundry fabric softener, and it didn't like go up my nose and attack my fucking pituitary gland like it did, you know, 3 fucking weeks ago. So like I said, it took me a while to realize that I was having some anomalous thing happening to me 3 weeks ago. But still, I was like, shit, I don't be smelling that smell. And the second time I went outside, I went ahead and put my masks on to get my second turtle. But, okay, so in the scenario, the aliens, like, duplicated that. Okay, so we were sitting on the back porch, and it was so funny. I started seeing all these little, okay, it was like me, the veterinarian, and then the roommate. We were all on the back porch. It was very small, you know, little, just as big as this little square right here, and fenced in. And, like, behind me was the little town of small little buildings, like a downtown, small little buildings. And so as I started looking around on the patio, I started seeing the little bits of, you know, what's that called? The lint flying around. I mean, like big pieces of lint flying around, and it was blue. It was like little blue, and I could see it glistening, you know, in like the light, the sunlight or whatever. It was blue little pieces of lint flying around, and I was like, you know, wow, you know, they're living here and they're breathing that in, you know, every day when they sit out on their patio, they're breathing that in, that lint and stuff. I didn't verbally say anything to my veterinarian. I was just like thinking it, and I was seeing all these big pieces of blue lint, you know, like flying around. And as far as I remember, I did smell, you know, that fabric softener kind of smell. As far as I remember, I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember exactly, but I think I did. And I started seeing, I'm pretty sure I did, like a slight, you know, fabric softener smell. And like I say, I know the aliens were fucking with me. I mean, I know it's weird. I mean, because they get to you in the dream state and everything, but eventually, like, they can make it happen in 3D. Like when they attacked me with that smell, that just, like I said, I just opened the door. This was like 3 weeks ago. I opened the door like at noontime, and they were doing their laundry or whatever. They were drying their clothes, and the smell just like way the fuck, the spam, and then it just like like attacked my pituitary gland, and then I felt like I was having like a big bout of, you know, hypoglycemia or whatever. But like I say, it took me a little while to figure out that was anomalous, because there was 3 other things or 4 other things that happened, you know, the next day or 2 or the, you know, same day or whatever, and then it all went away. And like tonight I went out there and smelled it, and I didn't have any problems. Okay, so under this lucid dream, I saw the little lint, I mean, like big pieces of lint, you know, flying around, and I could see it glistening, you know, the dust and the lint and the sunlight and stuff, and it was blue. It was like blue. And this is the funny part. The aliens chose Downey. Like I knew, like I was thinking in my head, I'm like, wow, they're living next, I mean, a few buildings down, and I already knew the building, the factory. It was just a very small building, the little factory where they were making Downey. Some reason the aliens picked Downey. You know, Downey. I probably bought Downey before many years ago, and I know my mom used to, and so they picked that from my brain and they put that in the scenario that the little factory was making Downey, like Downey detergent and Downey fabric softeners. Now I don't know if they actually make Downey fabric softeners, but I know they make Downey detergent. Okay, so that was the other part of the scenario, which was kind of funny. And like I said, as far as I remember, I did smell the detergent smell under this lucid dream. And okay, the other bad part was, Okay, well okay, here comes the funny part because okay, the aliens know that I've taken my turtles to this veterinarian in real life. But in the scenario, in real life, I've never taken Reptilia, my baby turtle. Although I've been thinking about it many times, taking her there so they could trim her nails because I was going to try to trim Reptilia's nails and she like jerked. And I was like, well, fuck that. I'm not going to try to do that. Because it looked like it would be real easy, but she felt it and she jerked. So I'm like, okay. Because her nails need to be trimmed. Okay, so in real life, I've been thinking about taking Reptilia to that same veterinarian. And she's really young. She's only like 32, maybe almost 33 by now. So in real life, I've taken many other turtles there. I've taken Charlie and Shelby, but I've never taken Reptilia. But in the scenario, like I said, they put the veterinarian in there, and then they put and two, by the way, it seemed like they were trying to, her roommate that was in the scenario, I think they were trying to copy that other veterinarian, that older one that's at the office, except they made her like a younger version, like a 30-year-old version instead of the 60-year-old version. That was kind of weird. Because now that I think about it, because when I was looking at her and everything, it reminded me of that, like they were trying to copy her hair and stuff. But, so in the scenario, the aliens put Reptilia, my baby turtle, in the scenario. And so after I smelled all the detergent and I was looking at the lint flying around, the blue little lint flying around, and it was a live lint flying around. But that's kind of funny part too, because it was like a screened-in porch, but still it was somehow, I guess it was getting it on top. But, and like they say, the little buildings were just a few, it was just, I don't know, like 100 yards? Just 100 yards back, the like downtown little buildings. And I just somehow knew, when I looked back, I knew one of those little buildings was a factory that made Downy. And I did see the little buildings and stuff, but the aliens didn't make me, like, look inside the factory or anything. As I was thinking about, as I was seeing the little building behind me. But I just somehow knew that it was the little factory, that made Downy and stuff. And, so then after all that, there was like a little shelf, there's like a little shelf on the back porch. And, I'm probably forgetting some parts too, but I set Reptilia up on the shelf. And she seemed to have like she fell, and I picked her up and she was fine and everything. So then it's kind of like I moved her to another, shelf. And then at that time, she fell again, and she fell on her, like, head. And so then when I picked her up, I knew that it did too much damage. I knew that she was a goner. Yeah, like, I knew that, that fall had killed her. So, yeah, the aliens, they do bad shit like that sometimes. But then, of course, the next day, I hurried up and went outside, just to make sure she was okay and everything. But I knew she was going to be okay. And she had already moved because, like, she had already moved to the perfect spot. And I was like, okay. Because she wasn't, well, at first she was, what do you call it? Where was she? Where's that little... Oh, yeah. Because when I had, before this lucid dream, I had... that day or whatever, I looked to see where she was at and I couldn't find her. And then, after the lucid dream or whatever, after I got up and everything, I wanted to make sure she was okay, so I went out there and there she was. She had moved into her little cave that's over there by the water spout, dilly bobber. And so I picked her up and everything, and I was just wanting to make sure she was okay. But I think that night it kind of got cold, so I brought her in anyway. Towards the evening time, I brought her in. But she's fine. I know where she is. She's right there by the side building. By the side of the house right there. After I mow, I collect all the grass and I put little piles. It dries out real bad, but the turtles, kind of like hiding under those little piles because it's good insulation. So yeah, so she's over there right now, but she's fine. But the aliens do that a lot. Like they'll kill one of my animals and stuff in my scenarios and shit. But okay, here's for the, what was the other, oh, shit, I don't know, okay. But, okay, one thing I was going to say real quick, which is kind of odd because I had been thinking for like many months, you know, I'm going to overpopulate that pond down there in real life with turtles, like red ear sliders, if I get a boy. And I think I may let Melina go down there because she needs a bigger pond because she's big and she needs to be in the wild. But I may let her go because I've had her for a year, but I might let her go. But anyway, so I had been thinking this for many, you know, years. I'm going to overpopulate that pond down there with like red ear sliders if I, you know, breed them or whatever, like Trixie and Scooty. And all of a sudden, like 5 weeks ago, when the water turtles came out of hibernation, I was driving down the road at 1:30 p.m. That's when they came out of hibernation. It was like March something, and it was March 20 something, and it got to like 75 degrees, and it was sunny. And I looked over at the pond, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" All these huge ass red ear sliders were just piled up on each other, like in a mass of like that. There's probably, I don't know, like 8 or 9, but they were just all stacked up on each other on the bank. And I thought, my first thought was that's kind of odd because I've only seen one big red ear slider, and that was the one I let go, Maria. And I saw her before. I'm pretty sure it was her because that was before hibernation. Last year, I was looking at the pond with binoculars, and it looked like this big turtle was. I could tell it was a big turtle like that. Basket. Well, no, I've seen her before too. Like just one big red ear slider over on the east part of the. Is that east? No, I mean north part. I mean of the pond. Like I've seen her on. I've seen her before on another twig. A little more northwest before, like over the past 2 years, and one big one, which I know is Maria, the one I let go a couple years ago. And then one time she was in the water basking on a twig. Okay, but that was prior to the March 23rd or whatever, when they all came out of hibernation. That was prior. But anyway, so my point is, prior to March 23rd, the past 2 years, I've only seen one big red ear slider, which I knew was Maria. And then all of a sudden, you know, March 23rd, I see tons of them all stacked up on each other. And then I went, so then, when did I go? I went like a few days ago to go see if I could see, you know, any more of those huge red ear sliders, and some of them I think are cooters. Okay, well, twice now, I went down there, like recently, and so I bought these really good binoculars, and I was like, are you fucking, like, first of all, I was over here looking north, and then I started moving over here, more north, a little more northwest, but still north, kind of. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? There's like 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, there was at least 10 huge red ear sliders all lined up, basket up on top of the bank, all lined up because there's not a lot of twigs that they can get on, so they got to dry bask up on the bank. There was like, I don't know, there's like at least 10 or 12 of them, and some of them with my binoculars I could tell they are 12 inches, and some of them may even be a little bigger. I know some cooters get like 13 inches. Some of those were 12 inch, possibly 13 inches. And a lot of them were red ear sliders. And I know one of them would have been Maria, no doubt. And so anyway, so I was looking at the binoculars, and then as I started walking around, you know, they still noticed me way on the other part of the pond, on the south part of the pond. So, you know, as I started walking around, like 80% of them, you know, jumped back in the water. And then I was looking at the water with my binoculars, and you could still see their little heads up. You know, but eventually I'm going to go over there and feed them. But it's like, where the hell did they come from? I mean, where did all these turtles come from? They were not in that pond prior to March 23rd. And then all of a sudden there's all these big-ass freaking red ear sliders and cooters, like bigger than Melina and as big as Maria and bigger. Oh, I can totally tell with my binoculars. There's one that's probably 13 inches, and a few that are 12 inches, and then some as big as Maria, which she was like about 11.5. about 11 and a half inches. And and then, but not only that, over on the other part of the pond, north part of the pond, I started with my binoculars looking at the water, and then I started seeing the little boys because the boys stay small. Well, I saw one of the big ones trailing the two little boys. That was before I saw all the the ones lined up. They were just lined up on the bank, and like 9 to 12 of them just lined up. And but the first time that I saw them, a lot of them were stacked on top of each other in a clump of like this on the bank, and that's when they came out of hibernation, like March 23rd. And like I said, my first thought was, that's odd, because where did all these turtles come from? Okay, so anyway, like I said, before I went down there and saw them all stacked up like that, lined up. I mean, they were lined up. So then, a couple days before that, with my binoculars, I started scanning the water, and I was like, why didn't I think about this before? Because, when you start scanning the water with binoculars, you could start seeing their little heads, and I saw at least 2 to 3 boys, and one big one trailing the boys. And so that big one, my first instinct was, well, that could be Maria. And but I didn't realize there was. I guess I didn't realize. Still at that point, I can't remember if I already knew that. I don't know. I can't remember if. Well, anyway, my first thought was that could have been Maria. Because I guess I forgot about all the other big ones that I was seeing, that I saw stacked up a month previous. But anyway, so my first thought was, hopefully that was Maria. That was kind of, because I could tell it was like a big slider like that was trailing the little boys. There's 2 little boys, and their heads were like, little, and the female I could tell was huge, and I could tell by the ripple in the water she was like this big. So I thought maybe that could have been Maria. But like I say, I know that I saw Maria. That was before all of a sudden all these other huge ones started appearing, which a month ago. Like 2 years previous, that's when I let Maria go. And I had been down there many times, like with binoculars to see if I could see Maria. And I know a couple times I saw her, and that was the only big redder slider that I saw. Just one of them, and appeared to be about this big. Of course, from a distance, it's going to seem smaller, but I knew that had to be Maria. And that was 2 years ago. So I didn't really think, chances are, I knew there was other smaller turtles in there because I've seen them, but never in the past 2 years did I see all of these massive amounts of huge turtles in that pond. And so now all of a sudden, every day I'll be able to go down there, 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and I'm going to see all these. Oh, actually, the other day I went down there, and most of them were already in the water, sleeping and everything. And over there by the clump of trees, that's where I saw about 3 or 4 of them, huge ones, and it looked like they were just sitting on in the water, but a big mass of, either it was real shallow, or they were just sitting on a big mass of sticks. Yeah, I saw like 3 or 4 of these big ass ones. But it's like, where did they come from? And I know Maria is definitely part of the clan, of course, now, because she's going to be hanging out, with all those females. But it's just kind of odd. All of a sudden, where did all these huge fucking turtles come from? They weren't in there before. I would have noticed them. They were not in there before. And like I said, I am thinking about letting Melina go in there now. She's going to have a ball with all those big old females. They'll be her friends or whatever. And, but that's kind of odd. Where did they come from? When before, 2 years ago, all I saw was, I did see one kind of larger one like that. I don't know if it was a slider or a cooter. I saw one about that big. And all the other ones I saw basket were just turtles, like that big. And then, like I say, I figured Maria was probably the only big one in there. And like I say, I know I spotted her at least twice, because that was before whoever put all these other freaking huge ones in there. Which I think the aliens are probably populating that pond for me. Like they're answering my call or something. Because that's odd. That's very odd when I didn't notice, the past 2 years, all these freaking big ass turtles. I mean, that's very odd. And then all of a sudden, I noticed them. You know, of course, the past few days when I went down there, but the first time I noticed all these clumps of big, huge ones was when it was ready for them to come out of hibernation, which was like March 26th or something like that, at 1:30 p.m. Anyway, that's odd. So now I'm gonna have a blast going down there, looking at them, and eventually I'm gonna try to walk over there, and try to throw some shrimp in there and see if I can start feeding them. But okay, shit, what time is it? Tor, come here. I don't know if let me see what time. But I mean, that's odd. I think the aliens they're populating that freaking pond for me. Because they already knew, I was thinking in my head, okay, I'm going to overpopulate that pond with red air sliders. Eventually. But, like, they're doing it for me. Okay, so, and like I say, I can tell, man, from my binoculars, there's one or two of them that's a 12-incher. I mean, I can tell by my binoculars. One of them was a 12-incher. I mean, a few were 12-inchers, but there was one particular one, I mean, I could tell it was 13 inches, I guarantee you, 13 inches. And I know, like I say, some kind of cooters get 13 inches. And I'll have to go look and see which ones get 13 inches, but I never believed it. Because, I don't know, I've never believed it until now or whatever. I didn't know some of them got that big. Some cooters or whatever. Okay, so this other out-of-body experience I had was just Sunday morning. And like I say, I was asking Joel to, give me a flying out-of-body experience. Okay, so this was out-of-body experience, but just a small little clip of virtual reality experience after the astral traveling. Okay, so, I think it happened, I got up and went pee-pee, I think, about 7 a.m. I haven't been getting up till about 9:30 or 9:45. I've been trying to go to bed about midnight and sleep until about 9:30 or 9:45. And I've been trying to stay on that schedule. Okay, so, or about 12:30 to 9:30 or 12 to 9:30, 9:45, somewhere around there. Okay, so I was asking, for Joel, to take me, astral traveling and stuff. And like I said, I don't know if he gave me this experience, but I think he did because he's very unpredictable. Because he's been taking me backwards a lot. Like, he'll take me forward, but this time he took me forward and backwards. But he's lately, the past several scenarios, he had been making me astral travel backwards. And in real life, I wouldn't like to go backwards. But under the scenario, he's been making it fun. Okay, so anyway, so I was asking for an out-of-body experience. And so I actually got one on Sunday morning. I think it was, like I said, a little after 7 a.m. So I got up and I broke the sleep cycle by going pee-pee or whatever. I laid back down because that's when it's very easy for them to get you. So then that split second before I fell asleep, he took me basically, and I was just like, oh my God. When we went forward, and it felt like he was there with me, and it felt like I don't know if he can manifest wings or something, but I guess they don't necessarily have to have wings to astral travel with me, but I almost felt like the being was there with me. I don't know if it was Joel though, but I think it probably was. Because normally, a lot of times I don't think he really, when he makes me astral travel and stuff, he's not there with me, but this time it felt like the being was there with me, and I felt like it had wings or something. Okay, so anyway, so he took me super, that's what I'm saying, this last part of the scenario, I'm almost thinking, I don't know, I'm almost thinking it was a different being that gave me this experience. Okay, so anyway, so Joel, or this being, when he abducted me, so we started flying, a straight path, on my stomach. Okay, no, I'm wrong. Okay, so, okay, hold on. Okay, so okay, well, basically, okay, so the first part of the scenario, we started flying, and I was going, okay, well, no, wait a minute. Okay, So okay, this is the disturbing part. He had this material like this real thick material, like this blanket, except it was black. And I do actually have a black blanket like this somewhere, up in the cabinet or whatever. It was like this, it was really thick. Okay, so, well, here's the part where I forgot about, because because when I started flying, when we started flying, he somehow told me that we could go faster if he kind of like tied me up, and I felt like I was like 4 foot tall in the scenario, you know, as opposed to my real height. I felt like I was only like 4 foot tall. But he had like tied me up with this like my legs up like over here, like he had tied like my legs up like that, and like it came around my shoulder, kind of wrapped me around like 3 times or whatever, with this thick material like this blanket, except it was black material. So he had tied me up. So when I was astral traveling, like I say, I was wrong. I wasn't astral traveling like that. I started astral traveling forward, but I was tied up. I wasn't completely like that. I was tied up. Is that called bound? Or I was bound or whatever. And my knees were like this, and I was kind of like this, holding like this. And so I started, but I was still kind of forward as far as I remember. Yeah, so we started astral traveling like that, and I bet you we started going forward, straight, in a straight path. And I bet you, oh my God, we were going at least 300 miles an hour when we went forward. Okay, so then he took me backwards, and I was just like, wow, this is so much fun. So when we went backwards, he took me like 600 or 1,000 miles an hour. It was faster, like double as fast. And somehow, okay, when I started astral traveling forward, like I said, he was there with me, and I felt like he had wings. When he was there with me, I felt like I already knew that I was not going to get a virtual reality scenario scene. Like, that's all he was going to do with me. And I didn't get one. I was like, okay, I want to land in a virtual reality scenario. And see, Joel normally would put me in a virtual reality scenario, and this being did not. So we went forward, it could have been 500 miles an hour, and then when we went backwards, we went like 1,000 miles an hour, and I was just like, wow, this is so fun, this is so fun. Okay, so then after we went backwards, then when he was done with me, he kept me tied up, and he set me down in it felt like one of my old apartments. He set me down near the door. Actually, I felt like it was the apartment over in Kansas City that I lived at right before I moved to Texas, that little apartment, and the front door, like he placed me like right there, you know, on the floor, and I started screaming. I was like, help! I was screaming because I was still bound like that, because he didn't untie me. He just left. This being just plopped me down when he was done with abduction, so to speak. He plopped me down, and I was still bound with this really thick material, like, you know, straps, like three straps of this thick. It was like this, like felt almost, and it was black, and like I said, it was thick, and he had me tied, and it was black. Like I said, it was black, and he just plopped me down like this, and like I say, in the scenario, I felt like I was probably only 4 foot tall as opposed to almost 6 feet tall or whatever, and he just set me down like that, and I was just like shocked that he just left me there, and that's when I started like screaming, and the next thing I know, I woke up back in my bed. But it was fun. But I mean, that was disturbing because like I didn't know who was gonna undo me, and then so like anyway, but he left. He just plopped me down like this, and I was still tied up. Like, let's see, like I don't know where, you know, but it was like three or four big, you know, straps of material like that, and but anyway, he basically did that because he knew that he would be able to take me faster. That's the information that like he gave me, and like I say, I was like this forward when we were astral traveling. I just can't remember if I had my arms like that or not, but But basically, I was just in a little ball. He took me in a little ball, astral traveling, and we went super high speeds. It was such a freaking blast. But like I say, there was no virtual reality scenario except for that little bit at the end when he plopped me down in my old apartment. And like I say, like when I woke up and stuff, like I said, I felt like it maybe was not Joel that gave me that experience, even though Joel has taken me backwards many times. I think this being, and like I say, normally when Joel instigates me astral traveling, I don't feel like he's there with me. This time I felt like he totally was there with me, and like he was there with me the whole time, and I felt like he had wings. But like I say, even if a being doesn't have wings, they would still be able to fly with you. But like I say, that was so bizarre because he had me tied up. That was the first time I've ever been tied up like that. See, that's why it's so fun messing around with these beings, because you never know what you're gonna get. It's a blast. Okay, watch out. Tor, gotta go. Thanks for listening.